All right, so I went ahead and went live. I'm watching the new Marvel What If episode right now. Really enjoyed the Black Widow stuff. There was a really cool fight scene with her. Thor was pretty cool here. Overall, I'm pretty surprised by the quality of this episode. I hated the second episode. I thought it was trash. Didn't make any sense that Black Panther was not being challenged at all throughout the entire story, and it was just very I don't know, it was lame. There were no challenges. It was very predictable. Everything went the hero's way. There were no challenges and no setbacks, but really enjoyed the first episode. It seems like the first episode kind of split people 50-50, and then the second episode was pretty much universally understood to be garbage because there were no challenges. Um, I don't know if there was any kind of an emphasis on trying to make the series more woke or make the Marvel universe more woke or focus on making the what if stories about race and gender swapping, but it seems like this third episode is just coming up with an interesting story overall. I guess you could say there's a continuation of that political undertone. I don't want to spoil anything too much, but um, as I get deeper into the episode, I guess spoiling it will be inevitable. And then at the end of the video, I'll talk a little bit more about what if. So I like that they brought in I like that they brought in someone that was doing like a whispery voice, kind of like the Incredible Hulk's Betsy Ross. Liv Tyler is definitely a distinct voice, but they went in and tried to find someone to do an impersonation. I can't really tell if they have Mark Ruffalo and Samuel Jackson back for this, but you can definitely tell that Scarlett Johansson is missing. I mean, they got a pretty decent halfway impersonator for Black Widow in this one. Uh, but Clark Gregg and Samuel Jackson definitely sound like themselves, but I'm not sure if they're sound alikes or not. I didn't look at the credits before I started watching this episode. I'm not sure what the what if question is of this episode so far, but it does involve the Avengers, so I guess we'll see if any kind of new Avenger centric happenings change around here in comparison to the original Avengers movie. So far, the animation is a lot better too. The lip syncing is much better. The second episode had terrible lip syncing and really bad, clunky animation in a few places. So this is a step up. I guess there was just maybe a rush, a crunch to get that episode out. I can't really tell if Loki is Tom Hiddleston here. It sounds a little bit like him. Um, and there's still a few problems here with lip syncing, or I guess the facial animation matching up with the mood of what's being said. But yeah, overall, this is a little bit more interesting than I thought it would be. This is an interesting episode. This is putting the characters in some very interesting positions that the other What If episodes really haven't touched on yet. Um, this is probably the most interesting episode of What If so far. I'm not sure if Thunderbolt Ross is also the original actor. Seems like it could be Hurt. I'm not sure. Some cool animation with the Hulk fighting. This is pretty interesting. Um, Not quite as dynamic as the Hulk is in CG, which is interesting because everybody else looks much better than in live action when they get into their action scenes. Um, it seems like they're essentially recasting the Incredible Hulk sequences with Edward Norton, but putting Mark Ruffalo in his place. So that's an interesting addition as well. I mean, I guess it's inevitable, but still kind of surreal to see everything that was happening with Edward Norton turn into the Hulk with Mark Ruffalo. So I don't know. This is interesting. Uh, this is an interesting turn of events, but it looks like again we're breaking continuity or we're breaking the understanding of these characters to make a point. Um, like the Thanos that oh my gosh, the worst line I've ever heard in a comic book related property. Black Panther saying that sometimes the best weapon is a good argument. That was terrible. That didn't even make sense for Black Panther. It didn't make sense for Thanos either. I don't understand why they ever did that. That was horrible. They should have just left Thanos out of that episode. It would have made way more sense. But that just made it absolutely terrible. I don't know what editor let that slide or what story editor gave them no pushback. But Thanos being comic relief or being uh, less manic because he was able to talk to Black Panther and I don't know vent. I don't know. It didn't make any sense. So last week's episode was horrible. This is starting to get there. It started off promising, but we're taking a turn. But I'm curious to see where it ends at. So I won't write it off before I see where the story ends because it's some interesting little twists and turns. Hmm. I'm getting very confused right now, but we will see where this goes. This is an interesting new turn of event. Okay, this is a very strange ending. I'm getting confused right now, really badly. So, this, the Marvel What If series may have jumped the shark. Not gonna lie. Okay, interesting. That was a fun twist. still confused, but let's see where this goes. Okay, so that was cool. Uh, so yeah, this was an interesting episode. Um, Overall, it came close to jumping the shark maybe two times. There are a few questions being raised that I guess will be answered by the time we get to part two. I guess next week is part two. Because this episode does end on a cliffhanger. I'll I'll just offer some thoughts without spoiling anything, and then I'll jump into more spoiler type stuff after I kind of describe the overall thoughts and impressions that I have of the episode. Overall, it's much better animated than the first episode for sure. Um, I don't think there was any way really to deny that. the The first episode is still, to me, the best animated. Still had the best action scenes. This one, um, people that read comics with any regularity could pretty much figure out who the villain was in this mystery. But I did appreciate that it was a mystery. At least it was something that was a little bit less straightforward, kind of keeps you on your toes, makes you want to watch and see what's going to happen next. So I do appreciate the way the episode was structured. That was much appreciated and well done. Everybody that came back to contribute their voices did a great job. I didn't watch the end credits, so I'm not sure who came back and who they found voice doubles for. They definitely got a voice double for Scarlett Johansson, and her voice double was fine. Liv Tyler's voice double was that was interesting, but Liv Tyler has an interesting voice herself. So what can you do? Very distinct too. I mean, it sounded as if most of the major voice cast had come back, and everyone was great. Everyone had some pretty cool little lines. Clark Gregg as Agent Coulson, of course, is always welcome back and always an enjoyable presence in these Marvel shows. He had some good little jokes and good little comments he got in. Nick Fury also had some good lines too. Maybe one or two in particular line readings that really stood out to me as being good. Um, Trying to think of what else. Um, the animation was all right. Story was interesting. Episode two looks like it's going to shake out to be more interesting than this first one, but this episode was also set up, so I can't really fault them for just giving us the first taste of what's going to start happening next. I would say this is very ironic because this is a reoccurring issue I had with Marvel What If, but I had the exact opposite issue with the Loki series. The Loki series felt like those episodes should have been 20 minutes an episode, if that, maybe like 15. The Loki episodes went on for two or three times the amount of time that they needed to make their points. They definitely were really boring and could have been over much faster. But the Marvel What If episodes seem like they need more room, at least another 10 minutes, maybe even 15, to really expand out and explore their ideas, because the what if concepts that they're coming up with are interesting, but I feel like they're abbreviating themselves on purpose or taking strange turns that don't really add up with what we understand about the characters or what we understand about comic book continuity, just to be shocking, just to be surprising. I don't know. But this one was definitely much more solid than the second episode. A lot more fun. It moves by faster. The second episode left me a little bored. This one definitely didn't. This one was pretty exciting, consistently entertaining. Um, yeah, I would say still the episode I'm more likely to rewatch out of all of them is the first one. It has to me a lot of great action scenes that are worth revisiting. Kind of along the lines of like a Samurai Jack or something Tarkovsky would have directed. Um, what else? I mean, if you like Marvel characters, I think this one is worth your time. I think you should check it out. There are a few little logical leaps. Nothing as bad as the Thanos, the best weapon is a good argument. Nothing is that bad in this episode because that's the worst thing I've ever heard in a comic book movie since uh man, I don't know. That might be the worst thing I've ever heard in a comic book movie or any kind of comic book adaptation. Um so yeah, nothing that bad at all, but overall thought the show was okay. Jumping into spoilers, um I guess if you don't want to hear this, I guess turn off the video or um if you don't care, yeah, I'm gonna just start talking about the specifics of the episode. Um Episode was in particular about killing all the Avengers. So yeah, all of them die. At first, it does look like it's going to fall into the same issue that people were complaining about with the first two episodes that men die and uh, women have to fix their problems, or men are inadequate and women are better, or whatever the subtext was. That seems like it was hinted at, but maybe not codified specifically. Um, this episode definitely sidesteps that. Seems like it almost is aware that people are going to go that direction, and critics are going to drift that way in their minds, and then they kind of set up a clever way to subvert that expectation. Um, when the villain is revealed, I thought it was a great twist. A tad bit predictable, but a lot of fun. Um, it actually makes me think that would have been interesting to have done as maybe a villain in the first Avengers actual movie, to some degree, or even creating some kind of an animosity that's resolved at the beginning of the first Avengers movie, maybe as a preview or a prequel, or there were some interesting things there. Um, I think it's interesting to go into this and see how Marvel thinks of its own past. Um, the movie that was up to that point is most successful until Black Panther and Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, years later, almost 10 years later. um it's interesting to see how they use hindsight to inform their critiques and comments of their past work, or the the ways they embellish their past work. So they use their new lore to kind of go back and add some additional shading and additional depth to what's discussed. Um, there's also a character that's kind of brought in as a red herring, and then by the end, they're um, they're fully revealed. And if you're kind of aware of what Samuel Jackson was up to in the '90s, then you won't be surprised by where the story goes. I like the fact that we kind of acknowledge the stuff that happened in the gap between the first appearance of any Avengers in Iron Man and what Nick Fury was doing in the '90s and what Captain America was doing in the '40s. So overall, I thought this was a much more enjoyable episode than episode two. Pretty interesting twist, a few interesting little turns. Um, the animation again is kind of spotty. I'm not sure what the point was of using the 3D animation, or if they wanted to just try to maintain some kind of similarity to the real actors, or maybe they priced out 2D animation. It was too expensive or would take too much time. They wouldn't have enough time to really make tweaks on the fly that they might need to. And 3D offered them some better solutions. Um, so yeah, I would say this is like a 7.5 out of 10 episode for me. Episode 1 I would say is like an 8 or an 8.5, and then the Black Panther episode I would say is like maybe a 2 out of I'm sorry, a 2 out of 10. And then I would say the first episode is like an 8 out of 10. And this third episode I would say is like a 7 to a 7.5 out of 10. Um, I mean, make of that what you will. I'm definitely not the comic book expert of the whole world, but from my perspective, there are a few things that they got right here. There are a few things that they got wrong. They bordered on just complete calamity in a few places, but it didn't get as bad as it did in the second What If episode. Good action, some pretty fun beats from all of the Avengers, the traditional Avengers, and I like this twist on the first Avengers film, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing what happens next week and seeing how everything that was seeded here pays off next week, which is definitely more than I can say about last Wednesday going into this Wednesday. I was not looking forward to watching this episode at all. Um, anyway, yeah. Let me know what your thoughts are. If anybody wants to sound off in the comments, let me know. If you watch this video later on, like it, subscribe to the channel. We'll hopefully have some more fun comic book conversations moving forward. All right. Y'all take it easy. Hopefully I'll hop back on the live stream later on tonight.